that he was tense for a moment there, but it's good that they planned for Duke Galoa's reaction when writing the scenario. It appears that all their serious work has paid off beautifully. Sariphi engages in conversation with the Duke, mentioning that this revered courtyard boasts a history spanning 2,000 years, having withstood the test of time and beloved by many distinguished guests. This angers the Duke because she misspoke, having only memorized a set of facts to appear intelligent. They are feeble, pathetic creatures, and Macron, in particular, cannot be trusted. She repulses him. He then urges them to hasten the dinner service. The advisor becomes very afraid because if the Duke decides to leave, everything would be over. The Duke enters the dining room while the advisor attempts to spark tensions between them, no matter what it takes. The Duke takes his seat, and the rest join for dinner. He drinks his juice and notices that Sariphi never tastes it. He becomes angry because she refuses to drink the juice that was offered. The advisor interjects, stating that such beverages are not suitable for her. At that moment, the advisor Anubis intervenes, wanting to ruin the banquet in any way possible because he despises the presence of a human in the kingdom. He is eager to sacrifice himself for the king in any way, and he informs the Duke that Lady Sariphi does not drink monster wine as it doesn't suit her. The Duke is astonished, wondering how she could refuse this wine when she claims to be a queen and should do everything that monsters do. This greatly angers the Duke, as he despises humans. His personal advisor then calms him down and tells him that they are at a dining table, and he must restrain his anger. He should not interfere in his affairs again. The Duke strikes his advisor and knocks him down, then berates him for meddling and orders him to leave him alone. Especially when they are at the dining table, the Duke tells Sariphi that looking at his ugly face spoils the taste of everything. At that moment, Sariphi couldn't hold back her nerves and tells him that he shouldn't speak to his advisor in such a foolish manner. This further angers him, as he cannot eat with a human sitting at the same table as him. He demands that Sariphi immediately leave the place. Sariphi manages to control her composure, but sadness fills her eyes. This greatly infuriates the king, and anger flashes in his eyes. In the last moment, Sariphi informs them that she is indeed leaving immediately, wishing them to continue enjoying the meal in peace. How great you are, Sariphi, with a beautiful heart free from resentment, envy, and animosity. Humans are always forgiving. She then leaves for her room, feeling very hungry. However, in an instant, she finds a plate of food beside her, and when she looks, she realizes that it was the king who brought her the food. Sariphi asks him why she hadn't eaten anything, but he tells her that eating beside a man who insults his queen would spoil the taste of any dish. Sariphi becomes overjoyed because the king loves her dearly. She reassures him not to worry about her, as she has grown accustomed to such things. This is her second test, and she must fix the situation at the evening party. The king is amazed by her and thinks to himself that she is much stronger than people like him. Her heart is incredibly compassionate. Sariphi then offers him some of the food because she cannot eat it alone. When they finish talking, the king informs her that she must exert all her efforts. After a few hours, specifically in the royal palace, a grand dance party is held. The princess is very worried about Sariphi, but Philab assures her that she has trained extensively in dancing. Finally, Sariphi arrives at this time and asks the Duke to dance with her. However, his answer is shocking as he tells her that he cannot do so. This shocks everyone in the hall. He repeats it over and over again that he will not dance with her. Can you expect the great Duke to dance alongside a human? At that moment, Philab speaks up, extremely angry, and tells the Duke that Sariphi will not be able to complete the test. The Duke asks which test they are talking about, and Philab, the advisor, informs him that if Sariphi cannot fulfill the role of a gracious host to a respected guest, she will be excluded from consideration as our future queen. However, if the Duke is not pleased with the situation, the party will be cancelled. The Duke tells him that he will not do such a thing and orders his servant to dance with Sariphi instead of him. Sariphi's gaze becomes very sad as he belittles her greatly, but she accepts the situation and decides to dance with the servant. However, she is fearful as she looks at his hand, which appears very strange. They start dancing together, and the servant apologizes to her for having to dance with him. Oh, his skin is covered in decaying palaces with a foul smell, and his appearance is ugly. But Sariphi tells him not to say that, as they are all creatures of God. However, he tells her that he is not like the others. Sariphi was very hesitant at first, but she answered him that she did it because he seemed to be in great pain. He has been wounded for over a century, and though it no longer hurts him, he has killed many enemies and many humans. Sariphi learned from him that he hates humans because the conflict between them runs deep. This servant tells her that if she becomes the queen in this kingdom, she must accept this reality until the end of her life because this path is very difficult and filled with hardships. But she tells him that she has chosen this path to be by the king's side. The king has two faces, a human face and a monster face, and she wants him to be able to live as he desires. Despite not possessing any special powers of her own, she desires to assist him in any way possible. The servant concludes that she loves the king. She tells him that she doesn't just love him, but she adores him greatly. The other monsters notice that they are engaged in a conversation and seem to be enjoying it. However, the Duke monster becomes extremely angry. Then, Sariphi, the monster, tells him that if he doesn't feel any pain, can she hold him with even greater force, as it is difficult to dance if they don't hold each other firmly. They continue dancing together, but he feels pain from her strong grip. He asks her to be gentle with the ballet moves. They laugh together, but suddenly the Duke comes and strikes him hard in the face, causing him to fall to the ground. The Duke lifts them by their clothes and tells him not to laugh, as there is pleasure in seeing him befriending a human. He insults the monster, calling him a disgrace to his monster heritage. Then, the Duke takes out his sword and intends to kill him. Sariphi stands in front of him, defending him. The Duke, enraged, tells her not to interfere in matters that don't concern her and asks her to step aside so he can kill him. Sariphi refuses outright and the Duke angrily calls her a fool, saying that she will never become a legitimate queen. He tells her to choose the smarter option for her future or destroy herself for the sake of this wretched old creature. The old man tells her not to care about him and to remember what she told him about wanting to stand by the king to support him. Therefore, she must step aside. Sariphi replies that if she becomes queen, she will be forced to abandon the majesty of the king one day. She wants to become someone who can stand beside him with her head held high, or else she won't be able to share his vision of a future where no one gets hurt, even if the queen ignores someone who is suffering in front of her. If that's the case, she can't become a queen. Then she says to the Duke, "I won't step aside, Sir Shark." The Duke becomes angry at her calling him Sir Shark and asks her who she thinks she's talking to. She tells him that he bullies people who can't oppose him and still calls himself a great warrior. He becomes very angry at her words. She continues sarcastically, asking him if he is truly the ruler of the sea. He becomes extremely enraged. He tries to strike her with his sword, but the king intervenes in time to save Sariphi. Surprisingly, the monster she was defending blocks the Duke's strike with one hand. The king's guards are astonished to see him stop the Duke's sword with just one hand. Then the Duke's sword falls to the ground and he kneels in submission on the floor. The king asks him, "Has the mockery ended, Duke Eston, ruler of the sea?" It becomes clear that the ruler of the sea is this old man. The king asks him why he executed this conspiracy. The Duke admits that they suffered under the mistreatment during the reign of our previous kings, but since your Majesty's reign, things have gradually started to change. You are a light in the darkness for us, my lord. We came here because we heard rumors that you were becoming disturbed and planning to take an unworthy queen who was not fit for royal dignity. The king responds, "So, to test Sariphi, you made one of your men play the role of a tyrant and disguised yourself as an old soldier who fell on hard times." The Duke humbly confesses to the deception and admits that he is ready to face any punishment. He claims to have orchestrated the entire trick and that all his men followed his orders faithfully. He pleads with the king to accept only his punishment and spare the others, falling into tears. Suddenly, the shark stands up, saddened and angry, and begs the king to take his head instead of the duke's. He declares that the duke is like a lighthouse to them, and none of them can live without him. He is willing to die for the duke. Sariphi approaches the shark and tells him that if he cares about the duke, he shouldn't talk about death. She asks the king to punish them both together. The king is surprised that she is not angry at the duke, considering the terrible things he said to her. Sariphi explains that she didn't mean those words and they didn't bother her. She even enjoyed it. The king accuses Sariphi of deceiving the king and humiliating his beloved. He considers it a serious crime and vows not to be satisfied until he imposes an appropriate punishment. The duke, his advisor, and all the others involved in this plot swear eternal loyalty to the king and pledge their entire beings to defend his kingdom for his sake. The duke then sinks to the ground, thanking the king for this noble punishment. From now on, we, the descendants of the fish, pledge eternal loyalty and respect to His Majesty the revered king and to support Lady Sariphi, your legitimate wife and our future queen. Afterwards, the duke and his followers bid farewell to the king and Lady Sariphi, and then Sariphi apologizes to the king. The king tells her that he hopes to never hear such words coming from her lips again because he was prepared from the moment he chose her as the queen that stepping on others to save herself is not her nature. He trusted her and her answer, and because she gives responses like this, he wants to make her his queen and wife. The king takes her to the room where the ceremony was held and asks her to dance with him. Sariphi feels shy but starts dancing with him, happy. And with this, the 8th episode concludes. Stay tuned for the 9th episode, but we hope you subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive all the updates.